We could build what is antiquated and just compete against others. But for us, we always want to be the innovator in the space. And so for building something, it has to be cutting edge technology. It has to be different. It has to be better. And so, for example, like a brokerage may come to us and say, hey, can we use all of your services so we're not working 7 days of the week or having to hire 50 people on our team in order to manage these properties? And we say, yes, but here's the Hemlane way of doing it. You have to fit into our molds of innovation. And if you're just looking to make a quick dollar, we actually don't care about working with you. So if you're looking to, upcharge on this and that and nickel and dime tenants, we're not interested in working with you. We can go work with another partner in your area. And so I think for us, it's like growth, but more so on the innovation side of actually making a difference and not just layering technology onto the antiquated industry and hoping it will change.
Welcome back to Plus Partners, where we share the stories behind successes. I am Kevin Burke, founder of Burke Plus. We are a strategic growth partner focused on increasing brand awareness and revenue ups for our clients. If you want to hear more about that, just drop me a note in the comments. Today's guest, Dana Dunford at Hemlane, and I have been trying to chat for weeks and months now, and I'm so stoked to have you on the call. Welcome, Dana Dunford.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Kevin. And yeah, I laugh because when people change the calendar and schedule 5,000 times, I'm like, what would that ever happen? And then I realize both you and I have some of the busiest schedules out there. So appreciate your time. Get stuff.
It's been both of us. Yeah, it's been good. All right, we'll jump right in. I got a hardball question for you. You've had some time on the East Coast, so you know what I'm talking about here. I'm up in Marblehead, which is just north of Boston.
Mhm.
What the heck is calf dressing, and do you ever wear the belt buckle?
So that's a great question. So for those of you who don't know me and my background, I'm in technology, but I grew up on a ranch out in Salinas, California. What's interesting about it is my family, my mom is a scientist, my dad an engineer. So I didn't actually grow up in like the ranch world, but they bought a ranch. I think they just wanted to teach us hard work. Uh, so I competed in high school in something called high school rodeo. And so competed around California for our district, which was District 4. And then most people don't know this about Salinas. They think of it as Steinbach country or the salad bowl capital of the world because most of your vegetables are grown there. But they have something called the Salinas, California Rodeo. And the background behind it is it's actually one that attracts most of the best cowboys because they have the largest purse size. So they give out the most amount of money. And what that does is attract the best cowboys. It also gives them enough budget to have the best belt buckles. And so I wanted to compete in it. Of course, I'm not a cowboy full time or a cowgirl full time. Also, wouldn't have been able to compete at that level in barrel racing. So I saw something called calf dressing, which is essentially you take a pair of Wrangler jeans and dress a cow in it. So you like put it onto the back legs. And so signed up for it. I was the only female in it because it was all men. And all of them had cowboy boots on. And of course, I wanted to win. So we came with sneakers that like actually were good in dirt. So we weren't slipping around in our cowboy boots. And it's a team of three. And so I actually brought two people who had never seen, I don't even think they'd seen a real life cow. They were city boys, but they were two Stanford football players. And I said, all you guys have to do is race out there and get the cow. I'll be able to dress it in the jeans. Anyway, did that. We got first place. We got the big belt buckles, which were the same ones that the top cowboys win. And so felt like from that perspective, we did well. And everyone was laughing at us when we went into it because they were like, oh, these city slickers. But we came away with the first place, which was pretty cool.
All right, we could wrap this right there. That was an awesome story. Very cool. All right, now, do you ever wear the belt buckle, or is it just something you put on the shelf?
I probably wear it once a year at the rodeo. I don't.
There you go.
I should wear it downtown San Francisco, but I don't.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. All right. Well, awesome story. Thanks for sharing. So clearly, the hard work mentality that your parents wanted to instill in you paid off. I mean, you got a little stint back in the East Coast after Santa Clara out west, right? Spent some time at the HBS, little time at Apple, Nest. How do you transition and come up with, okay, well, those are kind of fun places, but I think I can do something better?
Yeah, I think people have to be kind of crazy to start a company. In hindsight, actually looking at it, and you also have to have a really big pain point because founders don't get, I think, enough credit for just how hard it is in the early days, especially if you didn't grow up with a family of entrepreneurs to see what they went through. And so for me, I actually saw this. So this was back in 2009, 2010. My older sister and her husband had gone into real estate investing. They actually got me involved and passionate. And I started investing in real estate as well. And what I found was you can actually make a really good, stable return on investment with real estate and control it. Because with stock market, you put money in, but the stock market could drop 10% overnight and you have no control over it. So I love the concept of a physical asset that boosts appreciates. So if you buy a rental property, and this is for me specifically long-term rentals, so ones where a tenant lives there with a 12-month plus lease, you could buy this property, it would appreciate in value. You can get cash flow. So every month the tenant pays the mortgage. You have some money set aside for yourself after you take out all the other fees and insurance and property management fees, etc. And there's a lot of tax incentives associated with it. So I found real estate as like a great place to invest. But the property management was something that I think deters a lot of people from owning real estate. And a lot of times, even if you're an accidental landlord, you just end up selling the property because it's too much work. You don't want to have to deal with the back and forth with tenants. You don't really know how to be professional with it to mitigate risk. And so what I saw was we were cycling through property managers constantly, and it wasn't necessarily always property managers' fault. I think that property managers are, it's really hard to set up consistent processes. So they almost take on too much. And then by taking on too much, they can't do anything well. And so what I wanted was basically, at that time I was at Nest, and so home technology where physically I could see my property from my Nest cameras and know everything going on with my primary residence. And I wanted the same concept with rental properties, my rentals. So no matter if they are in Denver or Florida or Alabama, be able to see from my phone a dashboard that tells me exactly what's going on and provides as little amount of work as possible to mitigate that risk. And so I saw the only way to change property management was to start with technology, start with just software, and then start adding services on. I think a lot of tech companies get it wrong where they just stay in the software space where they say, hey, we're just going to provide you with tools. But tools don't solve anything. Like when you need a plumber out there at 2 a.m. in the morning, a tool doesn't solve that. And so I've wanted to also have this managed service component where essentially you have software and then someone to pick up your repair calls, help find and place the tenant, and pick up all your tenant inquiries that come in, but do it at speed faster than anyone else. So your rental property would outperform those others. And then professional. So understand fair housing, make sure that you're able to get qualified tenants in the property. So basically taking the best in class practices and then putting that across the US. When we started and everyone thought we were crazy, they had said, well, what do you mean? Like the SaaS part, we understand software as a service, but what do you mean that you're going to have repair coordinators and leasing assistants and a rental assistant? And now with AI, no one questions that because they're like, oh, they were onto something. Now they have all the data no one else has, and they can bring in AI when it's appropriate. Because I think most companies use AI incorrectly, and then they can go ahead and scale much faster and do things at a lower cost and better than traditionally was done.
Yeah, killer, you're way ahead of the curve, right? Did you have an inkling of an inside information that we were going to eventually have tech that could kind of take over some of the components of the pieces that you're talking about? Or you think that just, I think, is the concept sound enough that it could have functioned alone without that?
I think when you have a big problem that needs to be solved, you don't know how to put the puzzle pieces together, but you have this vision and eventually you'll get to it. I think there were two things that kind of sped that up that I didn't foresee happening as quickly. The first was COVID. No one was online paying rent and, everything was snail mail, etc. And once COVID hit, it actually spurred our business because everyone was like, I actually don't want to go in person and talk to the tenants. I don't want to get COVID. And tenants were like, I don't want you to come to me. I don't want to get COVID either. And so that was the first thing that kind of spurred this whole tech enabled property management. This second one that really helped us was AI. We didn't know it was going to develop this quickly and be this helpful. However, we had an inclination that the more data we compiled, and this was back in 2015 when AI was sort of a buzzword, but I don't think a lot of people knew about it. We had this idea and vision then before we even built it to say the more data we get, the more we can streamline the process flows. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, with troubleshooting, when a repair request comes in, 7% of requests are closed without dispatching someone because we can de-escalate it, walk the tenant through what they should do safely, etc. So that's all built into our process. Back then, though, it was us building our own chatbots for it. Now we can build it faster and better because we have AI helping us, but we have them use our internal data to do it because, like, if you just use standard an LLM that's not actually trained, you could put a tenant on a ladder or on a roof and they sue you because they fell off. And so I think what we had to do was couple it with our own data to say, how do you actually make this vertical that much better by using AI, but smart AI that's built for this vertical, which is property management?
Yeah, that's killer. I think a lot of folks are, like you said, experimenting with AI, not necessarily using it the right way. I think what they're missing out on exactly what you outlined, right, is that you really got to leverage the data that you've sort of compiled
Mhm.
over time and then apply that in a way that's very specific to your own business. I mean, it's great to have
Yeah.
a chat bot that you put together, but it's just until it gets really boiled down to focusing on the problems that you're trying to solve, then it just is kind of sitting out there. It's no different than what used to be available.
Yeah, context is really important. And so, like, we structure data on our end, but you need that context. For example, I've seen way too many AI tools be like, great, we automate all of your customer service calls. And it's like, well, if you ever call one of those, it's terrible customer service. No one likes it. The AI sounds like AI. It's not really solving problems, and it also doesn't have empathy. And so I think you really have to break down what AI is good for. It's very good with anything that needs high IQ, but anything that is high EQ that requires empathy, which is repair calls, etc. A lot of times you need a human or you need context, which is what brings in from yours. Like, this property has a 6-month-old baby. So when there's no heat in the house, like this, you should have empathy towards an infant in the property. I think that kind of stuff. A lot of these models are like overly simplified platforms don't get right, and it just escalates the problem. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I'll cut that one out. Here's some background noise. Okay, so you're compiling a ton of data. You're building the tech to sort of serve the data. You're learning a ton about ton more probably now that you've been in market for a bit. Would you build the same platform if you started today that you started with back pre-COVID?
I would have built it differently. I definitely would have built it a lot differently. However, I actually want you to ask me that question in 6 months
Mhm.
because I actually think SaaS may be dead. So if you think about AI today, you go into ChatGPT and you put everything in. Here's a spreadsheet I need you to structure this way. Here I need you to do this. Here I need you to do that. And it almost structures the data for you, but you don't need to do it. Let me give you an example. Our tenants today log into a dashboard and it says, here are the 5 things you need to do. Click this button to pay your rent. Click this button to send a message to, the owner agent, and then a rental assistant gets involved. Or like click this button to submit a maintenance and repair request. In the future, I actually don't think that's how technology will work. And this is what I think is interesting about Johnny Ives and OpenAI coming together to create a new type of phone. I actually think the phone may not even have apps. I think what it may just be is you go in and you say, and for Hemlane's example, I need to pay my rent. Great. Your rent looks like you pay $1,200 a month. Would you like to pay the full amount now? Yes, please. Great. Which of your credit cards on file would you like to use? Or, I mean, we don't recommend credit cards, so bank transfers. Most don't enable that, but um, it would give you those options, and it doesn't operate as a SaaS. It operates more like a chat. That I don't know, but I have to think things are moving in that direction just based on what I've seen from how people use Gemini, how people use ChatGPT. It's much more of a talk conversation or a chat conversation versus a workflow. And that is interesting to me because, like today, if you're an owner or an agent on our platform, we have all the lease templates, you could edit them. But like in the future, you wouldn't have to even do that or save them. It's just going to know you well enough that it will be able to create it. And so I think, today would I've built things differently? Yes. But I think if you ask me in 6 months to 1 year, it's actually going to change very drastically how we would build it. And I think that's because of these LLMs, how smart they're getting, how much feeding this data in is making it able to learn and then specifically do things for you. So anyway, ask me that again in a year, Kevin, if you'll let me back on your show.
Let's see. We'll be doing this in a year. Well, yeah, sure, absolutely. Even if we're not, we'll have a cool conversation. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're using AI in some pretty funky ways on our end too. Like, um, you know, we're using an agent that we've built that is filled with information that's being plugged in by probably about 150 other users on the platform that I kind of work with, helping with the biz dev solution stuff. And it's absolutely incredible how much it can anticipate the questions that we're asking based on previous conversations already, right? So I agree with you. We're pretty much almost there. And you guys do have a SaaS model, so I can imagine that it's not just a little scary, but a little exciting too to kind of figure out how to evolve that model.
Yeah. And what I think is good is we have engineers who are constantly innovating. Like we're not a corporate environment. And we also have the structured data where the AI could feed it into the structure and save it in there for us. And we actually could have the AI learn faster. So I think like the tables in the back end infrastructure will be a lot more important than the actual front end of it. And so, yeah, more to come, but I'm excited to kind of see where it goes.
Um, all right, who gets to use this great AI driven, soon to be completely different platform that Hemlane is building right now? What's your target audience for this? What's the scale of the landlords that you're really talking to, that find
Yeah.
your stuff the most useful?
Yeah, most competitors who make it in the space will go after the large institutional or anyone who has over 500 units. I feel like that's a disservice to the industry because the average person owns between 2 to 4 rental properties. 72% of people self-manage their properties. And the people who are really struggling are these like small mom and pop brokerages, right? And so when I think about innovation, it's like, don't just go build something for the large institutions, go build something for the mass market. And so for us, you could have one rental property, you could have 200 rental properties. We built the system to work for both of them. And we built our pricing structure to be affordable for both and have the right incentives in place for both.
That seems like you've got some converging paths going on, right? As you're adopting the technology and learning from the information that you have, you're probably coming up with a product that's really much easier to scale across multiple users as opposed to like the large institutional folks who have one template that they really just need to recycle
Yeah.
2,000 times.
Yeah. And we're not interested in doing those ones, the large institutional, because they've already got their processes in place. They've already got their people. Their margin profile will change a lot the more they add AI in. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I don't see us really helping solve the problem that I see today is like mass market is struggling. The retail investor doesn't want to own or operate traditional brick and mortar rental properties. And if you can change that, you can definitely win in the space.
Do you think the big folks, the 1,100-pound gorillas in the room, are looking downstream towards your target audience yet, or are they still just really focused on, the big REITs and the big institutional investors?
They have they've tried to go into our space. It's in cycles. So like right now they wouldn't be buying up single family homes. But there was a time when, rates were basically, I mean, it was like sub 3% that they were going and buying single family homes. But there's 16 million renter households that are single family homes. And the large institutional investors only own 300,000 of them. So Wall Street loves to put out these articles, the Wall Street Journal, that's like, look at this large institutional investor is purchasing all the single family homes for rentals. But the reality is they're just such a small part of the market, and that goes within the cycles.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably a really good point. Um, and the folks that are building a large portfolio of rental units, I think they're, you know, right now, anyways, the trend seems definitely more focused on multifamily work
Yeah.
for most of that money right now, anyways. And that doesn't seem like the space that you're pointed at, regardless. Um, all right. So, where are these folks located? Are you guys everywhere, or are you just in California? Are you just in Sunbelt? What's your
Yeah.
footprint?
So Hemlane's nationwide. We're in all 50 states. We can provide vendor networks and kind of boots on the ground through our marketplace in about, well, any city or MSA over 100,000 in population, we can. I think we service about 82% of renter households where we can help you get kind of end-to-end management. However, if you don't, you can still use our software, you can still use our remote assistance. You just may not be able to use our marketplace for a handyman and a plumber and the boots on the ground that you would need.
How do you guys sort of onboard those vendors into the network? What's that process look like?
Yeah, the vendor network always gets stronger because every single maintenance and repair request that we get from a tenant, we ask the owner or the manager, how did the service professional do? If theirs is most likely on price, of like price convenience to working with them. And then the tenant, how did they do? Tenants are usually on turnaround time. Did they show up on time? Did they get the problem fixed within the first visit? And then that builds up our service professional network so we know who's good in the area and who's not. Initially, when we started, we were using commercial contacts that we had, partnerships that we had with certain businesses like Ace Handyman Services. We would go ahead and use those partnerships, but then we would also look at Angie's, Thumbtack, Yelp, and get a good view of who are the top vendors in the area. But it's not until you work with them that you can really understand from a price, consistency, and quality perspective are they good? And you're not going to get the cheapest price and the best quality. You have to balance those. And so that's something that our technology has been really good at.
How are folks finding you guys? Like, how do you reach out and sort of get in touch with not only landlords, but also potential vendors to kind of come into the network?
The
'Cause that's a big stage you're talking about, right?
The state. The vendors are pretty easy because obviously they want business.
Right.
They know that it's going to be professional. They're going to get paid on time because it's coming through a company like us. They're pretty easy to get on. For us, it's do they qualify? Are they licensed? Are they insured for their trade? All of that. And then do they have the quality? So it's much more on us making sure they have that quality. Their response time is fast enough. When they say they're going to show up for the tenant, they actually show up. So that's kind of the first part of it. And then as far as from the owner side and landlords, our number one source is word of mouth. So current landlords saying, hey, I think you should try out Hemlane, or a brokerage saying, hey, I wanted to go into property management. It's too much for me to do on my own. Hemlane has just made it where I can 10x the number of units I have and makes me look good. So all of that is pretty much word of mouth. But then, of course, we also, go to events, talk about our mission and vision of just reducing the stigma associated with owning and managing rental properties. And I think that resonates with a lot of tenants, with a lot of owners, and with a lot of managers.
Nice. Whereas, clearly you've got some reach right now, you've got some market presence. What's Hemlane in the next few years look like? Is it a volume play to just add as many owners and property owners and vendors onto the network, or do you have a different plan in mind?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a volume game. Everyone wants to grow and grow their units, but I think for us, it's growing them in the right way. So, like, we could build what is antiquated and just compete against others. But for us, we always want to be the innovator in the space. And so for building something, it has to be cutting edge technology. It has to be different. It has to be better. And so, for example, like a brokerage may come to us and say, hey, can we use all of your services so we're not working 7 days of the week or having to hire 50 people on our team in order to manage these properties? And we say, yes, but here's the Hemlane way of doing it. You have to fit into our molds of innovation. And if you're just looking to make a quick dollar, we actually don't care about working with you. So if you're looking to, upcharge on this and that and nickel and dime tenants, we're not interested in working with you. We can go work with another partner in your area. And so I think for us, it's like growth, but more so on the innovation side of actually making a difference and not just layering technology onto the antiquated industry and hoping it will change.
Other than that strategy, do you have a growth goal in mind? You guys looking to double over the next couple of years? And
Yeah.
that's what's that look like?
Yeah. No,
Yes to all.
we definitely do. I think from that perspective, our North Star metric is occupied units where the tenants are paying rent on time. And so it's not just total units on platform or revenue. Those are all basically things that come out of our North Star metric. Our North Star metric has to align with our clients that the property's occupied and rent is being paid on time.
Nice. All right. This has been fun so far. What's the future hold for Dana Dunford? This is your baby. You're gonna see it to fruition.
This is my first child. So yes. I'm still having fun with it. People always ask, what would you do next? I said, I don't know because I'm having too much fun doing what I'm doing now. I think it's been an exciting time because of the wave of AI and digital disruption happening right now that I think we're in like a Hemlane 2.0, where it's like, how do you innovate even further, faster, and better based on this new technology coming into the space?
Very cool. All right. I usually do a parting word of wisdom of your choice, but I'm gonna I'm gonna feed you a word that I caught on your socials the other day, and I think it might be worth bringing up is magnanimous.
Oh,
And I think that came from Brandon from your team, who recently you guys lost. So I'll give you a minute to talk about what that word might mean in the grand picture for Hemlane and for you.
yeah, definitely. So just to give folks some context, Brandon ran our sales and marketing team at Hemlane, and he was literally from the perspective of an innovator. He was so, so good at it. And I think that with him, how he was able to innovate so much in our marketing and sales side and really share with future potential customers why we're doing what we're doing and why things are better is because of his personality. And so what I love about that word, which it's generous or forgiving, especially towards a rival or a less powerful person, he was always with everything he did. He would listen to anyone in the room. He never had a chip on his shoulder or a power trip by any means, and was basically able to help us innovate because of that skill that he had, where he was always just this calming, nice person in the room. He would just stop and think and listen. And even if he didn't like what someone said, he would listen to the entire thing through in this kind of steady, simple state. So unfortunately, Brandon was close to my age. He was 38 years old when he passed away. He died of stage 4 cancer. And we miss him every day, but it's a great word that the entire team lives by.
I love it. Dana Dunford, thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Yeah, this has been great. Another episode of Plus Partners. We're out.